Hello and welcome to episode 202 of the Daily Sales Message, where every single day I share a piece of simple and actionable advice that's designed to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff. Now, I'm going to get straight into it today. We're talking about being expensive and the fact that expensive is relative. Expensive is relative. And I want you to remember this. When somebody judges your offering expensive, when you judge an offering to be expensive, just remember, expensive is a relative concept. You need a comparison, a comparable. There has to be something you're comparing the price to come to the conclusion that it's expensive. Now, for some people, it could be the fact that they've had another quote from a similar provider, so they think they're comparing like with like, apples with apples. For some people, and this happens to me quite a lot, is they're comparing you to what they thought it might cost. So they have an idea in their head, I think it should cost about X. And they're comparing you to that. Expensive or cheap, by the way, not just expensive. Cheap is relative too, but we very seldom get the objection that you're too cheap. So they're comparing themselves to a similar offering. They're comparing themselves to a thought they had. The other interesting thing to consider when it comes to the expensive objection is people find things expensive depending on how long it actually takes them to make the amount of money necessary to buy the thing. People find things expensive depending on how long it takes them to make the money that's necessary to buy the thing. For example, if I make £100 a day and the thing that you are selling to me is £100, I might find that expensive. It takes me a whole day of my life working to be able to afford to buy this thing. If I made £5,000 a day and the thing you're selling me is £100, I'm going to think very differently about it because it doesn't take me that long to make that money. So just remember that expensive is relative. The person you're talking to that is telling you expensive is comparing you to either an idea that they had, a preconceived notion, a quote from somebody else or a similar way to solve their problem, or they're thinking of how long or how difficult it will be for them to recoup the money or to make the money that they're going to spend with you. One of those three things is going to lead them to thinking you're expensive. But expensive is always a relative concept. So once you find what they're comparing you against, it makes life a lot easier. Well, that's it for this episode of the Daily Sales Message. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. Join me tomorrow in episode 203 as I check my notes for, the irony, don't forget what's next. I want to talk to you about what's next. Don't forget what's next. This is something we must talk about with our potential buyers, but we often forget to do it. Join me tomorrow for that, episode 203 of the Daily Sales Message, where we'll be talking about what comes next.